Hello to you all. This is Sandro Forte, and here we are just a few days before the festive season. And today, and I think we've lined this up perfectly, really, because one of my favorite masterclass attendees, students, whatever you want to call this lovely lady, Michaela Corby, she is one of those standout individuals who, and we'll come on to find out a little bit more about Michaela in a minute. But one thing that really stood out for me when Michaela joined a recent masterclass was that she was prepared to do what very few other people have ever done, and that was to take a fairly significant step backwards in order to take numerous steps forwards. And I want to find out a little bit more about that journey that she's been on. So I'm not going to steal her thunder because she is wonderfully committed to this profession. She's been on quite a journey. To use the words that she has stated to me on a number of occasions, she has been on a very much a transformational journey, and I can think of no one better to help anyone who might be considering whether or not to join the masterclass, to hear from someone who really has taken everything that the masterclass stands for and turned it into something incredibly amazing. So without further ado, Michaela Corby, thank you so much for joining us on this live broadcast to lots of people from all around the world. Start by telling us, if you would, about why I hold you in such high esteem, bit of background and how we came to know each other.
Sure, thanks for having me. Very, very exciting to be here. So, we came to know each other through the first masterclass that I attended. It was offered through my dealer. I'm in Canada, Victoria, BC, to be exact. So it was sort of intriguing to have a coach from, overseas. And I kind of joined on a whim. I actually joined the masterclass out of desperation, to be honest. I made a midlife career change. I've been in the industry 5 years, and it's like drinking out of a fire hose. You're trying to get yourself going. You're learning a lot. You're making mistakes, and I just sort of reached a point where I just wasn't moving forward, and I really did not know what to do about it. And there's all kinds of books and courses out there. But the way that this one came across my desk, it really appealed to me, and I just sort of signed up and joined that first masterclass. And I can honestly say it was the best thing that I ever did for my career, hands down.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's great. But I'm going to take absolutely no credit because, as I mentioned during the brief introduction, Michaela, you really did embrace everything that the masterclass is about. I think we have agreed on a number of occasions that there's no kind of new ideas, but what there is some relevance and modernizing kind of the old ideas that we've always just adopted without questioning them. And of course, the masterclass also allows people to personalize whatever it is they pick up on that journey, and different things for different people. What stood out for you? What were the things that you kind of grabbed from masterclass straight away? What were the things that, as you said, drinking from a fire hose? So clearly, and I think it's important to make this abundantly clear to anyone listening or tuning in today, that you're not going to implement all the ideas straight away, but we're going to come on in a moment to talk about this incredible end to the year that you've had, and all thanks and down to the efforts, the application, the commitment that you have made in your business and in your life. But what were the kind of the two or three, if you can think of two or three, what were the two or three epiphanies, the standouts, the things that really kind of transitioned you from where you were originally, which was kind of stuck in the headlights a little bit, clearly very talented lady, some great clients, some good experience, but not really making it happen, to where we find ourselves today?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question. It's actually very difficult to pick out the highlights from the masterclass because the entire masterclass was the highlight. Every day, every week, and every session we did, it was my favorite thing to log into. I couldn't wait. But if I had to drill it down, I would say that the fact of the masterclass is the complete package, the whole process, every step of the process that we go through. For me personally, the ability to understand how to prospect effectively in a way that felt comfortable and natural for me with my personality and, my skill set. That was the number one takeaway, I think. Number two was the meeting flow. It's one thing to kind of prospect and network and generate that potential, lead for a new client. What do you do with them when they get into your office? And I thought I had that down pretty good. Turns out that was probably the second highlight for me, as I completely revamped my meeting flow. Sandro, you really helped me embrace the concept of that they need me more than I need them, which is a confidence piece, which is, we can talk a little bit more about that later, but I think that was the number one thing that you and that the Masterclass program gave me, was an extreme boost to my confidence. And when you're coming from a place of confidence, everything flows differently. So the prospecting piece, of course, the meeting flow was an important piece. And to be honest, I've implemented a fraction. The Masterclass is so comprehensive. We got all the slides, all of the notes, all of the materials, tools, scripts, email scripts, and you name it, I've got it. I printed it all off. It's in a binder. And the type of success and the shift that I've seen using 10 or 15% of those materials, I can't even wait to see what's going to happen next year when I implement the next piece and the piece after that. So the third, I think real big important piece for me was having the ability to go back and listen to those recordings, go back to those materials, so I could reread them and re-listen and then choose something to implement. And the fact that while the content is broad and can feel overwhelming, there's a lot of content, it's delivered in such a way that you can pick, this resonates with me. I'm going to try this. Oh, I like this. This works. Now that's just a part of my practice. It's just embedded in what I'm doing. And then, okay, what's the next thing I can pick out of this material, and put it into process. So the ability to deliver such a massive amount of content, but in a way that's bite-sized. We don't have to implement everything at once. And in fact, you recommended that we don't. So those were the key pieces for me, I think. There's much more I could say, but for now I'll stop.
So going back to the start of the Masterclass journey a few years ago when I started to run them, I laid down a challenge. And the challenge is that anyone who beats the previous high score, if that's the right expression, of an attendee on the Masterclass, and that was 358%, in a 12-month period. We guarantee on the Masterclass that everyone will achieve a minimum growth of 30% in 3 months, but 358% is the current record in 12 months. And what I loved about the group that I was coaching as part of our Masterclass when you and I met, Michaela, was the fact that you decided right there and then that it was going to be at least 358%. And when we spoke offline, because we've stayed in contact and we've had a few little coaching calls and so on, I know that you're really kind of committed to making it over to Italy, which is where we're going to congregate, hopefully in 2024, to celebrate the success of all those who've achieved more than 358%. Let's just fast forward to where we are today, 21st of December, and this kind of record finish to the year. What do you put that down to?
I think in a word, it's confidence, belief in myself. And of course that has to come internally, but your Masterclass and your style really resonated with me, and it kind of lit the spark. One of the things that I really remember you saying, I think there was almost in the first Masterclass, because we start with mindset. That's the first step. Never mind prospecting, lead generation. What do you do on the phone? What do you do when they're in the office? What do you do after to, et cetera, the whole, process. We spent all that time on mindset and growth and mind changer, cards, which I still have and I still use. They're literally on my desk in front of me. I think that you referenced that you're not necessarily the most technical advisor. You're a people person. Obviously, you have to know your stuff. We're in an industry where you have to know your stuff, but we don't have to be so technical all the time. And I always thought that was sort of a downfall for me because I'm newer to the industry. I don't have, 30 years of experience, understanding all the technical side of what we do. But I have a lot of support. I have a lot of people that can help me. And I think that your style and the way that you present yourself is very similar. It resonated with my style and how I present myself. So having the confidence to take a step back and actually do the master class, because it does require time and attention and study and follow up. It gave me the confidence that I needed to segment my book, to segment my practice. And that also was a step back because that took time and energy and effort that I wasn't out there looking for new business or working with my client group to get new business. And once that was done, I just took off. It was just incredible. It was almost, I don't even know how to explain it, like kismet or something, like the universe just going, he told you. And I can definitely say I'm working towards that 358%. It's been a banner year. I've still got, I'm just looking at the date, we've got about 9 or 10 days left. We're getting into Christmas here, but that guarantee of at least 30, I far exceeded the guarantee that you gave us all, that you would at least see a 30% increase in your business. It's far, far beyond that. So it's been very exciting.
As I said, thank you. As I said during the introduction, the one thing that really stood out for me was when you, probably beyond anyone else that I've ever had on Masterclass, Michaela, was prepared to make the really tough decision to kind of consolidate her existing practice, her thoughts, her lifestyle, almost to take one step back, as I mentioned earlier. And I know that segmentation piece that we went through together was really scary for you at the time. And I've said, when I spoke with Serge on a few weeks ago, and as I mentioned, everyone, there aren't many people that are prepared to trust in that process of going through the pain of change. And as I said, going backwards to go forwards. But you epitomize that more than anybody else. I think for me, that's the standout in terms of the relationship that I've built with you. You go way beyond, I think, what most people are prepared to do instinctively. What sort of message would you share with people who are, who are worried about the pain, the consolidation, the step back to take 2 steps forward? We kind of know that we need to do it, but the doing it is really tough. What would you say to people? And I suppose just a general comment around Masterclass, and I know it's not for everybody, of course, but what would you say this whole process has helped you to become? Have there been any kind of moments where you thought, gosh, I see this a completely different way to the way I saw it before? Or is it just something as simple as, I kind of knew all the answers, I just didn't have the pieces in the right place? I know, what was your kind of, what would you say to anyone that's a little bit reluctant to take the same steps that you've taken?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, first and foremost, if you're watching this, obviously you've heard about the masterclass, it's come across your desk somehow. And I can tell you it was the best money I ever spent. And I will do it again. I will repeat the masterclass and any other versions because we learn by repetition. We can only get so much in. I think you need to trust, in the process. You have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And for me, I think I inherently just trusted you, Sandro. Like there was just a connection there. Your authenticity. I mean, we're across the ocean. We're on a virtual call. We have met in person, of course, but it's that authenticity piece that I really trusted what you were telling me. I believed what you were telling me. You shared your own stories with us, the trials and the tribulations as well. And I was able to gain confidence from that. This wasn't someone who was just, telling us to do something, but they had never done it themselves. That's the challenge with some of the courses, books, podcasts out there. You find out they've never been an advisor. They've never built a book. They've never segmented a book. They've never sold a book and started again. And you're kind of going, well, how can you tell me what to do if you've never done it yourself. You did all of the things that you're coaching us on yourself in different ways before you figured out, the best way. And so I was able to borrow that confidence from you and really trust that if I just do what he says, I will be better off. And I 1000% am. And it was terrifying. It was very uncomfortable. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry around it. But I don't regret it at all. Not for a minute.
Yeah, well, the feeling is mutual, because just those interactions subsequently, and I will just share the message with anyone that is tuning in today that, everything that we try to do on Masterclass kind of goes beyond the Masterclass program per se, in the sense that there is an awful lot of support that's given. Some people want more than others, of course, but there's lots of materials and scripts and diagrams and answers to various questions that people pose, like the continuous Q&A. But there's also the individual coaching for those that reach out as well. And I think Michaela has become my kind of A+ student along the way. And I think, putting everything else aside, Michaela, if you don't mind me saying this, the friendship that we have developed is, for me personally, really makes this whole thing fulfilling. I mean, okay, putting aside the lovely emails and the calls and things like we're doing now, to hear people achieving success, I've never put that down to me. That's down to you. We're all brilliant fundamentally. We just need to find a way to kind of coax that talent out of ourselves, whether it's a masterclass or a book or a speaker, as you say. But I'm going to take this opportunity, if I may, to thank you for your dedication and your commitment and your application. I'm almost reluctant to ask you this last question, and that is, where are you going next? Because if I ask you this question and you give me the answer I'm expecting, then I'm going to feel very I don't know, I'm going to feel very inferior, I think, because you are destined for extraordinary things if you aren't there already. So what's next, ambition wise? What are you going to do?
Well, other than coming to Italy, obviously, I don't think I'll be moving across the pond. It did occur to me that could I work with Sandro somehow? Could I move? But no, I think the sky's the limit. I think that I'm building this practice around my life, my lifestyle. I have a young child, and that was part of the stress point, that I was working harder, not smarter. So now I'm at a point where I have more time to spend with, the results are better, but I have more time to spend with my family. So, I do want to grow this practice. I do want to continue to help people. We do a lot of complex financial planning for families, and I want to continue to do that. I don't want to slow down, but I still want to make sure that I have the ability to still spend time with my young son and my family, and have that downtime. So it's a bit of a balance, but I think the fun is back into what I'm doing. So I can really see myself continuing on this trajectory and working with more and more complex clients and doing more and more exciting things. I'll definitely be at the next masterclass, even just the regular repeat of the regular masterclass, never mind the advanced, masterclass offerings, because I think we're going to need a reminder, right? We're going to need to go back to that well. You got to come back to that well and drink. And when you made that commitment to us, that if we needed you offline, if there was a case we wanted to discuss, you delivered. There wasn't a text, a WhatsApp, an email that didn't go unreturned. And those first few early successes that I had on some of my larger cases, you consulted on privately. And that was tremendously helpful for me. So if you continue to do that for me, then I'll go even further.
That's a deal. Well, we'll make a promise to each other live, and the commitment you will make to me is you will start to learn Italian, because you'll need it if you come to Italy. And secondly, I need to seriously think about increasing the investment level of the masterclass, because I'm obviously selling it way too cheap. So if you are if anyone listening is sitting on the fence, you best act now and sign up to the masterclass in 2024. Otherwise, I think I'm going to have to increase the prices based on all those lovely things that Michaela Corby has shared. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really valuable, those insights that you've had into your experience. Your successes are entirely down to you. We know that about all participants on the masterclass, but you know, as I said, I'm speaking today to a person who has completely, unreservedly, wholeheartedly embraced the masterclass and all it stands for. And look at the results. I mean, bravo to you. You've been absolutely incredible. I'm looking forward to spending some more time with you next year.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure, and happy holidays to everyone.